Okay, so I'm just going to show you how to add the drawing of the eye to your coffee stain page. You can see I've got my page here, mine's A4, but I'm going to just draw my eye at the top bit, so that's the bit you can see. And then I have printed out the step-by-step of the eye drawing, which I've done, and you can follow that on screen or you can print it out. You can also follow one of the videos, or you can just work from a picture of an eye, whatever you've got access to and whatever you feel is going to work best for you. Now, when we're looking at the eye, you can see that the first thing that's on here is a set of perpendicular lines and a circle. Okay, and that circle is your eyeball. So I'm just going to start off with that. I'm going to think about where I'm going to place it. So I'm going to draw mine vaguely about here. So my eye will be approximately about 12 centimetres big. So we don't want to draw it too small because you won't be able to fit in much detail. So we want it to be nice and big. So somewhere like 12 centimetres, 15 centimetres, something like that gives you a good size to work with. So I'm just going to start by sketching my first line. I'm using a 2B pencil so that it shows up a bit better on here. I'd say 2B is good if you've got it. If you haven't, just use your normal standard HB pencil. So I've got my perpendicular lines going at right angles, and I've drawn this to the right hand side of the page, so I haven't decided to put it in the middle. I'm going to go for an asymmetrical composition, which often looks a bit better, so if you can do something asymmetrical, go for that. And then I'm going to work with my circle. So I'm going to work lightly. I'm going to keep going round until I get a circle shape that looks fairly accurate. Okay. Then I'm going to look back onto this, and the next thing that's happening is that we've drawn in the pupil around where the lines cross, and then we've drawn in the eye shape like this. You can see that not all of the eyeball is seen when you look at the eye. You don't see the whole round iris, you just see part of it, so the eyelid is going to cut it off. I'm going to do the pupil. Okay, the next thing we've got going on is a few of the details of the structures of the eye. Okay, I've got this little section in here. We've got an eyelid crease, and we've got a highlight going in because your eye reflects the light and you always get a little highlight here, and we've got this other eye crease there, okay, like the top of the eyelid. The highlight tends to be curved, so you can see that I'm curving the top and the bottom the same. I'm curving the sides the same as well. Might do two separate ones on here, and this will show the way that the light's coming from. Okay, so I'll do my little corner section here. Okay, and then I'm going to start to put the eyelashes on, and you can see that the eyelashes are probably nearly the size of the pupil. They're quite long, they go all the way up to that upper eye crease. So what I'm going to do is when I add the eyelashes, I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go down. I'm going to show it bigger to start with, down a bit, and then up. So instead of just going like that, I'm going to go so they kind of hook in. Alright, and they'll be longer towards the outer part of the eye. So this is obviously where the nose would come down here. So this is the outer part of the eye, towards the edge of the face. And the eyelashes are longer at that section. And more plentiful. And you can see as you start to work around the eye, the angle of the eyelashes is different. So they've become more curved that way, like this, and more curved this way. So they're kind of straight in the middle, curved outwards and curved outwards. Does that make sense? Okay, and then I can also put a few in at the bottom. And just draw in a little eyelid here. and again they'll become straighter as you get to that middle line, and then they'll curve in the opposite direction towards the centre of the eye. You can work on those a little bit more later. Okay, now we're going to work on adding tone to the inside of the iris. So you can see I'm going to work, my iris actually appears, I think it's probably slightly too big. I'm going to make that smaller. Okay, and a bit like, it's kind of like, imagine it like a donut, so it's kind of raised in the middle. So I'm going to curve my lines that I'm adding as I go round. I'm not adding really hardly any straight lines, they've all got a bit of a curve to them. Try and make it look a bit more 3D. Okay, I'm just going to define the central pupil a bit. I'm going to go round and round and round and round and round. Now, when you're looking at the step by step, you can see that it's darker here towards the outside of the iris and darker towards the centre. So I'm going to try to add that on a little bit now. Just going to use some shorter lines, but also keep that contour of them curving as I go round. You can obviously spend a little bit longer on your drawing than I am. And then from the centre as well, also curving out. The highlights will be white or through to the background. So you can, at this stage, it can be quite handy to fold a tissue so you can begin to smudge the lines that you have. Now, some of that definition has been lost, but we can put that straight back in. It just gives you a bit of a sort of mid-tone, soft mid-tone to work back onto. And it means those lines are visible, but they're not as obvious. And I'm just going to keep working, adding in where I want the darker tone. This is where the coffee stain page helps a little bit, because it makes that kind of is the middle tone, and you can add the darker tone, and then you can always add some highlights for the lighter bits as well. It's quite okay to have some of your lines visible, because in the iris there are little veins and lines that are visible as well, so those details are accurate. You'll probably be able to see those better on a picture of an eye, like a photo, rather than the drawing that I've done. So maybe have a closer look at a picture of an eye when you're working on the iris, and have a look at the details and lines that you can see. Like I say, you can spend a little bit longer on this. I'm going to leave mine here so that I can show you the rest of the eye. Okay. So then, what I'm working on now is the shadow. So where the eyelid is at the top, you get a much greater shadow. So that bit will be darker, and there's also some shadow on the inside of the eyeball. So I'm just pressing down harder and doing more layers of tone at the top. I'm working over the eye itself because that shadow is on top of the eye. And then I'm just pressing more lightly and having less layers when I come down to the centre. I'm going to work back onto those eyelashes in a minute, and then I'll put a lesser pressure, so less tone, but still some tone, from the outside of the iris and at the bottom of the eyeball white area. Right, I'm just going to have a little look at defining the highlights again and use a rubber. Now you can sometimes, if you wanted to, begin to put in here what the reflection would be, because yes, it's paler, but usually within there we can see something. So you may want to add something in to make it more realistic. The outline of mine is probably a little bit too heavy, but we'll see how we go. Okay, then I've then got some shadowing where the eye crease is on both sides of it, and I've got some shadow here underneath the eye, and a little bit of detail working into here. So I'm going to add that. Be aware, if you're using a 2B pencil, it will smudge on your hands a bit, and if you're moving up on your drawing, it will smudge it. So I'm just trying to lift my hand so that I'm not smudging the toner work and the detail I've already got there. Because it's a shadow that is on the skin, it's probably going to be quite soft, so I'm going to use the tissue on that, because I don't want it to be quite soft and smooth. In fact, if I just smudge that whole area, I can come back to it and add in the eye crease. There we go. Okay. And then just underneath the eye, again, I'm going to put a bit of tonal work on, and then I'm going to smooth it out with the tissue. I'm going to sharpen my pencil to add a bit of detail. Now the only part of your eye that's really going to be white and untreated is probably within the highlight, so just bear that in mind. Okay, so I'm on the final steps now, and I can see that I need to add in the eyelashes again over the top and at the bottom, and then perhaps add an eyebrow in. So I'm going to work on those aspects now. I'm going to go with the eyebrow first. Make sure you've got enough distance. If it doesn't fit on the page, it needs to go off the page. Don't squeeze it on because it will look weird. I'm just going to use a little bit of mark making for mine because it is individual hairs. Okay, and then I'm going to work back onto the eyelashes, sharpening my pencil once again just this last bit so that they're nice and distinct. Might even use a slightly darker pencil because my work's already quite dark because I've used a 2B pencil. Just remembering to curve them round. And you might find that male and female eyes are slightly different, and you might want to find one that you want to work from. That's fine. As in, this person looks like they might be wearing mascara. That's what I'm saying. Which just indicates might indicate gender, which you may or may not want to do. Yeah, so I think the eyelashes are a little bit over the top. But all in all, I think that the structure of the eye, the size of the eye and the detail that I've got has made a really positive start to my page. Let's see if I can move this out. So you can see how much of my page it's taking. And then I've got these other aspects here that we can fill in with some other facial features or some drawings from Da Vinci.